afternoon. I was counting on a clock because I think there used to be one here, but I will keep track of my time myself. But so I've heard this panel called student panel a few times, but they're not students anymore. They used to be, and I'm happy to be the moderator today because I actually was colleagues with each of these people. So they're a great group of people, and they're handpicked to educate us and talk about their careers. And so they're all listed. Their bios are listed in the program, so you can read the details of the bios. But the very first thing I want each of them to do is they'll just tell you their name, so you know which one's which, where they're at right now as far as company, and a little bit about what they're doing. So so we'll do that for about 45 minutes, and then I'll try till about 2 o'clock, and then we'll open it up for questions, at which time you can come and use the microphone and ask your questions. So we'll start with Elise.
Okay, it's working. My name is Elise, and I am currently in gene therapy, working at Novartis Gene Therapies.
My name is Lisi. I'm currently at KBI. I'm an apprentice.
Hi, my name is Chidindu. I'm currently at Jaguar Gene Therapy with the process development upstream team.
And my name is Chris Carver. I'm with KBI as well as a manufacturing associate.
Okay. So I came up with probably more questions than a panel usually answers, but they're sort of designed to be short answer. So you have to kind of look at the totality of the answers. So and hopefully that made it easier for them as well. But so we'll just kind of take turns starting every question. So we'll start with Lisi. I'm too used to calling you Lisi, actually. So so before you knew anything about biotechnology or the biopharma industry, what did you see or hear that made you think that a career in the biopharma industry might be worth looking into?
Right.
We'll start with you again.
So when I first heard of the biowork program at Durham Tech, I actually heard through my mentor. I had nothing going on. And I really wanted to choose a career where, you know, as a first generation student, and I've been on my own for a long time. So for me, it was important to do something that wasn't going to require me to take a long time and be expensive, but get me started on something that I could grow from, which when she mentioned this program, I took it twice. The first time I failed, but I took it again. And then the second time I aced it, and here I am.
Chidi?
So initially I started at Durham Tech and I was doing a pre-pharmacy program over there for my associate in science. Initially, I wanted to be in the pharmacy industry, not in the industry, but more of retail pharmacy. And I was working in retail pharmacy, and then I felt like I
experienced before. And as you get a little older, or even as a younger individual, benefits are extremely important. I think the most important thing for me, though, was the fact that I've always been an advocate of being of service, whether it was providing somebody a hot meal or a great experience when they go out to eat for a celebration or for whatever reason, or helping somebody buy a shiny new car. To me, that was a big deal. It was helping people. This is helping people on a whole new level. And, it's an interesting and challenging career. But again, just all the things that we had heard about the industry, my wife and I in discussion, it just seemed like a wonderful fit, and I could put a lot of my previous skills to use. So, and then biowork was the way. Short, sweet, and here we are.
Great. Elise?
So kind of a little bit of everyone. I had a previous career in ballet, so I trained from a very young age and was professional right after high school. Through that time, I started taking classes at Wake Tech Community College, was going for an associate in science, and was originally on a career path for nutrition. But as I was getting ready to transfer, I found the bioprocessing degree, the major at NC State, through my chemistry professor at Wake Tech. So he actually was telling me about that bioprocessing degree and that it would give me much more opportunity. And as I started looking into it, I could see that the job outlook in biomanufacturing was what I wanted. You could get a job right out of college, right with a bachelor's without having to get that master's or PhD, and still get to work in science, still get to make a difference. And so really, there's also an abundant amount of opportunity in this area. And I really felt like I was putting down my roots in North Carolina. So, as I made into career transition and was set to graduate at the age of 33, I was very eager to start working as soon as possible. So, and I found the BTech program attached to the bioprocessing major. So I went through the BTech minor, and that really gave me that edge to start my first job right out of school.
Great. And I told you these guys were slick. They answered the question I asked, plus the next one too. So, but hopefully you also noticed through their answers that we have 3 generations represented on this panel. We got X, Y, and Z. And if you include me way over here, I'm the boomer. So we got 4 generations on the stage. So this is definitely an industry where you can work through all the generations or with a whole bunch of other generations. So once you were confident that you would complete your education or training, what strategy did you use to land a job? And was it successful, or did you have to pivot? I can't remember what I started with last time.
I can go.
Okay, yeah.
So after I got my certificate, well, right before I actually got my certificate, I talked to my mentor and I told her, for me, before I even started a job, for me, I wanted to try an internship or an apprenticeship, because one thing for me is, okay, I did my readings, I did my class, I got my certificates, but I feel like in this type of field, I wanted to be as prepared as possible for anything that they threw at me. So I was doing my internship at Lucas Biosciences, and that's when my mentor was like, hey, there might be an apprenticeship opportunity at KBI. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm down to do that. Then I got a call one day out of the blue. Hey, are you interested in KBI biopharma apprenticeship program? And I was like, who? It kind of got me off guard, but I just really learned how to network with people who was in touch with people in this field, which made it much more easier for me to land a job and land these opportunities that I have today. So.
And I happen to be on the interview team.
Yeah.
And Lissy interviewed, and I explained to her the apprenticeship. I said, oh, it includes an education at Durham Tech for free. And she goes, what?
Yeah, I had no idea.
I don't even think she knew what an apprenticeship was.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was just like, yeah, sure, because I've always done internships. So I was like, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, but you're going to have to go back to school. And I was like, oh, free? Okay, I'm down.
Thank you. Chitty, you wanna?
I guess I will always answer the call to come to any of these programs because this was where I landed my first job. I was at the Bright program and there was always like some kind of career fair going on. There was always like invitation to some of these programs, ISPE, this one. And I always took those opportunities every single chance I got. And I was always able to meet with people in the industry, talk to people, submit my resume. And some of them, a lot of companies in the area had the chance to come to Bright program and see what the students were actually working on. And we were able to like explain what we were working on and everything. So that was my experience. As far as how I got into the industry, it was mostly all about networking. Every single chance I got, I took that opportunity. And LinkedIn is another great tool that most people don't use. And I have been really, really active on LinkedIn more than I have ever wanted to be. But yeah, those were the major ways I try to transition into the industry.
Yeah, that's good leading, because I was gonna, just encourage everyone to do the networking between. Don't go outside, enjoy the 70-degree weather, and pop on your phone, because that's where I first met Chitty. It was during the networking session, and then we went to Bright, and there's Chitty again. So by the time we were like interviewing, it's like everybody knew who he was. So it's like, you gotta come. So networking is important. Chris, you wanna?
Sure. I'll actually start with the second part of the question. What was your original strategy, or was it successful? Absolutely not. My original strategy was, we made a decision that I was going to try to transition into biopharma. So I started applying everywhere, and it got me absolutely nowhere. Even with all the experience I've had, very transferable skill set into the industry, the fact that I did not have, we'll say a degree or the biowork certificate as I now have, I found it very, very difficult. And I was fortunate enough to get in contact with one of the recruiters from a local company. And she was actually the one that kind of directed me to the biowork, program, which I took with Dr. Morgan at Wake Tech. And with that program, shortly before graduation, I attended a virtual job fair. And I had probably 10 different, virtual interviews. One of the guys asked me, well, have I applied yet? And I said, no, I don't have my certificate. And he said, what the heck are you waiting for? And that is now where I work with KBI Biopharma. So the strategy was to get the certificate, and it worked wonderfully.
So pivoting is important as well. Yeah. Elise, you want to?
So I made my transfer from Wake Tech Community College to NC State. And I knew at that point that my career path was going to go into the industry of biopharma. I had no idea what that meant. And my first encounter with what upstream maybe versus downstream was actually talking to Rick. I don't know if you remember that.
Conference room.
Yeah, the conference room at VTech. I was 2 weeks into my first semester at NC State bioprocessing, and it was January. I was this non-traditional student, just trying to figure out what my degree meant, what my career path was going to be, and how to make that happen. And so NC State was very big on telling us like how to make that career transition, especially for transfer students. And obviously networking, LinkedIn, getting your resume ready. Rick gave me a little overview of what upstream versus downstream was. And then he's invited me to the BTech career fair. So I just took every opportunity I could to, network and just try to figure out who all the companies were in the area, what kind of opportunities might come about. And it was at that first career fair where I wasn't actually looking for a job because I still needed to get more coursework under my belt. I found Avexis, which is now Novartis Gene Therapies, and I kind of honed in on them. I loved their story. I talked to them at the career fair, and they remembered me the next year at the career fair. And also, as I got more involved with ISP at NC State, I joined the board of directors. I became president. I really just gave myself as much visibility as I possibly could. And knowing that ISPE, BTech, career fairs, all of that came together to eventually land an internship was my strategy. An internship was the way to then eventually have a job after you graduate.
Well, even before that, she told me she was going to work in the CRISPR lab at NC State.
Oh yeah,
I was sort of disappointed because like, oh, we're going to lose her.
that was my other strategy, was to get a job in a lab, just
Yeah.
everything.
Which she
So.
did, but eventually she came around and got back into biomanufacturing. So great. We'll start with Chris this time, go around. Of the initial tasks assigned to you in your first job, which ones did you feel best prepared to perform? And which ones required significant internal training?
Well, the interesting part about that is we actually haven't performed any of those tasks quite yet. We have the product coming. But the one thing that I really kind of latched onto with the BioWork program was chromatography. Just to, the science behind it, the different ways that it works. It just absolutely blew my mind, and just really intrigued me. And considering that with the downstream purification job that I'm currently working to get started on, as we're getting the facility up and ready, just being able to have that background knowledge and have a deeper understanding of the science behind what we're trying to do has just dramatically affected my ability to adapt to the industry. And again, it's just something I think that I really latched onto and found, I found everything interesting, but I think, that side of it was just a little bit more intriguing to me than others.
Okay, great. Elise, what were you most prepared for? Your first job?
So yeah, my first job was an intern at Avexis, and I'm still currently at Novartis. And I think I was most prepared to perform upstream processes because, we really, I had a strong understanding of what cell culture was and how cells are grown and how you can keep them happy. And I felt like I had a very strong understanding for that as well. Activities, BTech really gives you that hands-on experience of just gowning in. Like, how do you gown in a facility? We got our hands on the bioreactors in those courses. However, my first project as an intern was very heavy in commissioning qualification, and I was helping to qualify our bioreactors. And that is something that I didn't know much about with the validation life cycle. So I eventually had gave me some background in that, but it was after my internship. So it wasn't as helpful, but that was probably one of the things that I needed the most training in to complete that project.
Okay. Let's see, how about you?
So when I did my internship at Lucas Biosciences, I was kind of thrown into upstream and downstream. So I would run, chromatography and depth filtration. And I was also running my own experiments on the side. I made my own 6-cocktail phage. I grew my own cells. I took samples, plated. So once I got to KBI, I thought I was going to be doing something similar, but no. So I'm starting in support, which in the way is good for me because I didn't know none of the basics. Yeah, I knew some because of school, but I wasn't really doing hands-on basic stuff that I needed to know, like practice my GMP stuff. I needed that. So once I got to KBI, they started me off how to put gloves on, how to gown in. And it was just like something that I wasn't really taught in my internship, which was good for me to know there. But now that I'm at KBI, I do different stuff. I do process waste. I do process assemblies for the upstream and downstream departments. I am about to get trained on samplings there. I do cleanings. I mean, I can do a lot of things, but I kind of enjoyed my time at Lucas so much that's why I was like, yeah, I think I want to stay in this field because there's constantly always something new for me to learn, which is something that I really enjoy, especially if, once I get good at it, I'm like, yeah, next thing.
Yeah, Lissy's in support, so she's got a lot more. stuff to learn about upstream, downstream as she goes too. So you will continuously learn, and I know a lot of employees like that. So having been in the training world for a while, that is one thing that we made sure we tried to offer is like continuous learning. So Chidi, how about you?
So like Elise, I started at Vexis, which is now Novartis Gene Therapies. And when I first started, it was like the startup mode, and we were in a little space. So we didn't have a lot of the equipment that we were looking for. So for our cell counting, we were mostly doing it manually. So that was one of the things that I was more prepared for. And there was a lot of people that were in my team that didn't know how to do a manual cell count. So it was really great that I was already prepared for something like that, because when you're having your interview, you can talk about all the science that you know, but the soft skills are not something you just know. Like you have to be trained for those kind of things. And being a startup company, one of the things that I was not really prepared for was we were thrown into the commissioning and qualification activities at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. And then we had to create a lot of the documents that we used, like the SOPs, the MBRs. Those are not the kind of things that you learn in school. So I was not really prepared for that part of the process. So I had to take a lot of classes, which the company paid for. And good thing we had a lot of good team dynamics and a lot of good people that were in our teams that were able to train us, that were able to like talk us through some of these processes, and we were more prepared after that.
Okay, great, thank you. So we talked about how they got interested in the industry, how they got trained, how they looked for a job, what do they do on their first day or the first month. So kind of going a little bit off the actual job part. So what do you like? What are some of the things you like within your company or working on a team that you like? Not necessarily the tasks on the job, but start with you, Elise.
I have been very fortunate. I'm now working on my second team within the company, but we just have such a dynamic where I think we know how to, business when we're on the processes, but we can keep the morale up, we can joke, we can have fun. And everything in manufacturing is you have to have a team that is supportive. We're all enthusiastic about what we're doing. We're also very passionate about making sure that what we're doing is right. We all are very interested in the science behind what we're doing. So we kind of nerd out about, how are we going to make sure that we problem solve this issue today on the floor. And we're very proud of ourselves when we have issues on the floor, no deviations, it's a great day when that happens. And I think that we all just really, we have such a drive all together and to make it work. And I think in our company and as well, we have a very open culture, and it's supportive, in terms of, new mothers coming back to work. I just came back from leave, and everyone really understands when you have to have that work-life balance. Do what you need to do. We trust that you're going to be there for us when you can be.
Listen.
Well, for me, it might be a little different because I'm an apprentice and, school is part of my job. So when I started, basically everybody in my team started, which kind of sucked because we all had to learn together. But now we all have everything down that, we were able to have this teamwork dynamic that it doesn't matter if somebody else needs help. Like we always automatically know before they tell us. But we just were able to connect like that since we all started around the same time. For me, since I'm a student, there's times where I'm at work where, I have office hours or I have to do this for a class. And they tend to be super understanding. Like they'll be like, okay, we got you, go do your thing and come back to us when you're ready. Me and my supervisor, he started like 2 weeks before me. So me and him tend to have good communication, especially when it comes to like doing logbook corrections or GMP stuff. he kind of knows a lot about that. So it was helpful for me starting off because, I wasn't aware of all these issues. Human errors can happen a lot more frequently than you can think. Um, but I have a very good team dynamic, which helps a lot, even with school, because like there's some stuff I don't know. And, I'm the youngest one there. So I tend to always ask questions. And it's helpful when you have somebody who can check over your work, even if it's not really my work, it's my school stuff. But they don't ever be like, no, no. It's always like, okay, yeah, we got you. Go do your thing. Come back to us. So.
So, yeah, thank you. There is something to be said about starting, all starting at the same time. I know when I started here, everybody knew everything about this place, and I'm like, what? So starting as a group, I think, Chitty, you're next, but you may have some of the same comments.
Well, so right now where I work at, I'm in a process development team. It's a very small team. And most of the things that we develop is for like the preclinical stages. We don't do clean room or anything like that. So you own most of your processes. So one of the greatest things that, that I love about my team is, is that ability to give everyone a voice. We have meetings where we come in and everyone is allowed to say what they think. If we had an issue, everyone can come together and discuss the issue and come up with some ideas of how we can solve the problem going forward. The other thing is the work-life balance. There is a very great, push to make sure that everyone is not being outworked. Make sure that you have a chance to, come to work, do your work, and also take care of your family, affairs and everything. And those are like the greatest dynamics that I always look for in a team. And then when we are at work, when there's an issue, everyone rolls off their sleeve, help each other out. If there is a leakage or something, you see a director wiping the floor, doing something. And with those things, you just feel happy to work in such a team because nobody feels bigger than each other. So, we make it work for us like that. So.
Okay. Thank you. Chris, company team dynamics?
Oh man, I could go on for probably an hour on
But
this
you
question,
won't.
but I won't. For me, coming into this industry versus my previous careers, I've seen a level of diversity within the workforce, and also with this new facility startup, a diversity in experience, myself included in that. I'm an outsider coming into this industry with, again, relatable experiences, but nothing direct. And really in line with what everyone else up here said, collaboration between departments, everybody having a voice, like within our company, like whether you're, it's your first week or you've been in the industry for 20 years, your opinion has weight and your observations mean something. And, to have a senior director or even the CEO, hear what you have to say and value, the content is pretty amazing. It has not always been my experience. But yeah, just everything. It's been an amazing experience coming into this industry, particularly with KBI, and especially with the new facility startup. I think the biggest factor with all this is that, everyone, whether it's an engineer or quality assurance or anybody, we are all working towards the same goal. And, just the fact that you have hundreds of people, focused on one thing and celebrating everyone's successes has been incredibly rewarding.
Thank you. So Lissy, we'll start with you. So shift work is often a big concern with job seekers. So most, if not all, of panelists have worked some kind of shifts. So can you tell us about your experience with shifts and negatives, maybe some positives?
To be honest, it's kind of weird because I never really had a schedule the way I have it now. I work 12 hours a day, but not like, for example, this week, I call it my short week because, I only work 2 days. But then last week I worked like 5 days and then I got called in one day. So then it was just, I was out work last week, but it helps even when I come on my days off because I could sit down at my desk and be like, oh, I'm gonna do my homework right quick. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here to help for whatever, but I'm gonna stay at my desk, do my schoolwork, just stay my 12 hours today since I came in. So it's like easy to balance out schoolwork and work. It's just sometimes long days, come in at 7, get out at 7, then life, then I still gotta, do my schoolwork sometimes or read something for class. That's only bad with my long weeks. But once I get to my short weeks, I don't really have an issue. I kind of like it better this way because, I can get one weekend to myself, then the next weekend I'm gonna work.
Cool. Judy, how about you?
So my initial experience, currently I don't work shift work, but my previous experience, we were doing the 2-2-3 shifts, which is basically what she was talking about. You work 2 days a week, you're off throughout the weekend. The next week you are working almost the whole week. For me, working the shift work was one of the reasons why I went back for my master's program, because I felt like I could balance my school and work, just because I felt like I will have the weekends where I have 3-day weekend. I can get all my work done throughout that weekend, and then next week I can be able to work. It made it easier for me, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to go back to school for my master's program. So it worked out for me at that time, and I feel like I don't have an issue with shift work. It works out perfectly for the most part.
Great. Chris.
Well, with the new facility startup, we worked remotely for probably the first 6 months, well, maybe 4. So I was working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, which was a brand new concept for me. My previous careers, 65 to 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. So coming into this where I'm working 60 on, as Lizzie said, on a long week, it still feels like a part-time job to me. Like, I don't know what to do with all my spare time. Sometimes I think my wife is getting a little sick of me being home so much, but she does enjoy the good cooking and some break from the baby. But, now I'm in the 2-2-3 schedule, as they were explaining. So, that the way I kind of figured that out is that you're working 7 out of 14 days. You're literally working 50% of the year. And 4 weeks vacation on top of that. I'm like, you can't beat this. Every other weekend off. I think the Monday through Friday was nice, but it was very foreign to me. Seeing all my family every weekend, and I'm definitely an on-site kind of guy, and I love the long hours. I'm a workaholic, so I enjoy the time off, and this 2-2-3 schedule has been fantastic so far.
Okay.
No complaints.
Thank you. Elise.
So I am on the 2-2-3 schedule currently. So a little bit of background is that in my past career, I did not have a normal schedule. My only day off of the week was Mondays because we were performing. I was dancing all the time. My body was exhausted, and I had one day off a week. And even as a student, I was working several jobs. I was in fitness instructing. I so badly wanted a job where it was like an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I had weekends off when everybody else in my life was off as well. So my initial, I was very nervous about having shift work. However, I have to say it has been great. Pros are that you are hourly, so you have built-in overtime, regardless if you worked extra hours than what is required of you. So, and you have opportunity to make even more overtime. So the pay is great. And the hours are long. I have to be on site by 5:45 in the morning. You don't leave until 6:15 maybe. But now that I have a 6-month-old, it actually allows me to be home during the week. You're working 50% of the year, and it has saved us money in childcare. I only need a few days a week to have someone watch my baby. I have to say it's been great. And also a plus, on your short week, you can take off Wednesday, Thursday, you have the whole week off. So you can plan
you can start over here and you might get tangled up for a little while, but then, now you're on this different career path. Especially with the experience I've had with KBI in this brand new facility is, I've been involved with, equipment validations, installations, drafting SOPs, reviewing functional specifications, process validation. I've had so many wonderful experiences and things that I never would have, maybe just at a, facility that's already up and running. I took this particular job because of that opportunity to, find out what is my fit, what am I truly going to enjoy in the industry. But again, it's just, an incredibly broad industry, and it's not just about, making a drug product or, whatever your product is. It's about how you get there and all the different avenues that, are involved to make this, product safer. So yeah, get a foot in the door and find out what you're passionate about. And, in 8 months, I've been able to really kind of figure that out. So.
Great, thank you. We'll go to Elise, who was actually another career changer. So you're not the only one, Chris.
Yep, we're in that together. So so obviously networking, but I have to say I kind of agree. I think that manufacturing is key to starting your career, because I think that if you can have that experience of being on the floor, you're collaborating with so many different departments. If you're in manufacturing, you kind of get an idea of what everyone is doing in the company supporting manufacturing, and you can kind of figure out which direction you want to go. So how do you get that role in manufacturing is internships. And so I personally set my sights on an internship very early on my transfer to NC State. And I think what's really important is to, I think taking any internship is important, but looking at the companies that are in the area, trying to learn about what their mission is, what are they doing? Can you connect their mission with something personal? And I did personally set my sights on Avexis just for the reason of they were making spinal muscular atrophy gene therapy. It really resonated with me in my personal life with a disease that my father dealt with and I recently passed away from. And I felt like giving them my unique reason of why I wanted this internship, more than just, my coursework and everything that I had under my belt from NC State. So I think career fairs, I know everything is virtual now, but there are virtual career fairs where you can have some sort of face-to-face time, really telling your story more than just saying like, I've had all this coursework, I think is really important. So internships, getting into manufacturing, getting into a company that's in startup mode, because kind of like Chidi was saying, you get to do everything. I was doing validation and I was in manufacturing. So I was getting to learn all the different things, and it's smaller. You get face time with the people who are, up here. So, I mean, that's a lot in that answer, but yeah, getting your foot in the door.
All right, thank you. Listen.
For me, it's kind of like a little bit of what all of them said, networking and ask questions, a lot of questions. It's never a dumb question. That's something that I really learned, because let's say you're doubtful about something, just ask the question to somebody who will know, because this is a field where you want to make sure that not only you're doing stuff correctly, but you're showing the qualities where you can ensure that it's safe, and also for deviations. So for me, that's something that I had to get in the habit in, is asking questions and asking questions. And even with the other departments, like when I'm in the rooms and they're in the rooms too, I ask them, what are you doing? And like, they know me, everybody knows me in manufacturing now because I ask too many questions, but that's good for me, because now whenever I want to move up, I know who to go talk to. I'll be like, hey, I'm ready. Can you like put in a word for me? So asking questions, networking, and I feel like when I did my internship, I feel like that was really a big like push. Like I feel like that opened up more doors for me, not only because, oh, I can put this in my resume, I did an internship, I learned these skills, but like also it just gave me an advantage once I started because like I said, a lot of my team started at the same time, but I knew a little bit more than they did, which kind of made me feel like, okay, but ask questions.
Good, thank you. I got one more question. Oop, go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I just remember something when Elise was answering the question. There is something that I was not prepared for before when I had my interview for my current role. I started into I got into the room, and the first thing that the director asked me was, why? I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, why? I'm like, what do you mean by why? He said, what is your why? And I got so confused because I didn't prepare for that question, honestly. Like nobody is prepared for that question because sometimes you can't really explain why you're doing what you're doing, but it's always good to know why. I just wanted to touch on that because Elise said it and I remember that experience I had because you have to tell your story. You have to be able to tell the story why you are doing what you're doing and why you are in the field where you are, because you have to have a why. Everyone has a why for being here. So
Just got our last question. We'll just take 2 minutes and then we'll open it up so you can start thinking of your questions. But what advice would you give a hiring manager, or not advice, but what recommendations would you give to a hiring manager to hire more people like yourself? So Chris, start with you.
Whenever you go out to eat, ask for the manager and ask him if he wants to make similar money working half as much.
Nice, there it is. That's the synopsis. Elise? Sorry, Chitty, I'm an engineer, so.
So I think, taking on someone who has a non-traditional background, even if they, have a degree in science, like, learning about their other prior experience that could be helpful. Or, maybe they have a degree in business, but they have potential, they have drive, they really want to be there. Just taking on a chance on those non-traditional people that they may not, originally check all the boxes, but you talk to them, they have a drive. And I think that's just really important.
Thank you. Let's see.
Adding to her, that's actually very relatable to me because when I was doing my resume with my mentor to like get into the biowork program, she asked me, what are some transferable skills that you already have and know that you think will apply to biowork? And that kind of was like, I don't know. But turns out that I had a lot of transferable skills that I could use into this field, which was very helpful because, I'm very organized, which helps at my job. I am very like outspoken, like I always like to ask questions. That helps a lot in my job. So it's like every time, it's like I like to know everything. So for my interviews and when I did them, it was easy for me because I always ask questions to prepare me for what I knew was going to come. Like I wanted to be prepared for my interview. So when they asked me stuff, I could be like, yeah, this and this and this is because this. So.
Right, Chitty.
I would say one of the things that attracted me to Avexis or Avexis to me, I don't know, but was Rick was always a bright program, always stressing us out. but it's always important to meet maybe I'm speaking from being straight from college, and it's always important to meet the students where they are. Sometimes it's important to go to the schools and actually talk to them and see what they are doing. Because the resume can always say everything that they know, but you really want to like see them and actually see them do what they do. And it doesn't mean doing it only in career fairs and programs and stuff. You can always just set up an appointment and just go see what the students are actually doing and have that conversation with them, build that relationship with them. one of the biggest things is creating trust between people that you're actually interviewing and yourself, just trying to get them to understand that you are trying to help them build a career for themselves, not just trying to hire them for a job, but you're trying to help them. Meeting them there where they are actually helps a lot.
And I can verify that because every time I went to go network with the bright students, Chitty was there he was like the mayor of the class. So you could tell he was going to be a great employee just by the way he networked with all his classmates. So a couple of you had.
I just want to add, so I was on the board of directors, the student board of directors for ISPE, and it was just really important that, we called them networking nights, but we would have our company or a company come and talk to the students, explain what they do. And Avexis was one of those companies, Merck, like those nights were so important, which is where I landed my internship from that night and so many others, because it's casual, it's business casual. We always have food and usually the companies will sponsor it. So they bring the food for us. It's Bojangles or Chick-fil-A or, and that brings the students in, but then it gives them a chance to just talk to the students and the students to ask questions and put their best foot forward. And I think that recruiters, I think they really love those nights, and a lot of the people will get their internships or first jobs from those evenings.
Great. All right. So we got about 10 minutes left. I'm sure the panel has lots of other stuff they could share with you, but if anybody has any questions, if you come up and grab a microphone so we can all hear you.
Yeah, and for our online audience, if you put something in the Q&A, we do have somebody monitoring the chat who can ask your question live. So just wanted to make sure folks know that.
Thank you. Well, first, thanks everybody for your time. I got a lot out of it. I've actually got two questions, and the first one would be for the panel. I noticed that up there represents BTech, Bright, and the BioWorks programs. Could you give me a little bit of insight with regards to what percentage of your education was hands-on and what type of equipment you had a chance to work with through those programs?
Well, for the BioWork program, when I did it, this was last year, most of it was online, which was good for me because, I'm a full-time worker around that time. So it was really easier for me. We did have lab kits where we were able to do labs at home. But that was it throughout that time. I'm pretty sure, well, last time I went to something similar to this, I had talked about the BioWork program with Miss Ingrid, which she's here, by the way. And she added more stuff to the program. So I'm pretty sure the students are able to do more lab works than I was able to do, which, they can't send home certain stuff with us, which kind of sucked because I really wanted to do all this cool stuff, but I wasn't able to. But it was still a good learning experience for me.
So at BTech, luckily I was there just before the pandemic. I actually graduated in May of 2020. But I would say pretty much 80% of the coursework in that minor is hands-on. I personally was focused on upstream, but I was on the bioreactors. We had a whole lab where we were swabbing, like, what are those, 1,000-liter reactors? 300? No, the big ones. 300? Oh.
They look bigger.
They felt really big because we had to get up on ladders and we had these little swabs. And anyway, so we were taking TOCs. We were really hands-on in that course. We grew cells. We had to come up with a way that we would, make the most, GFP, green fluorescent protein. And so that was very, very hands-on, as well as the whole facility is set up like a GMP facility. So with personnel flow, material flow, we're gowning in, gowning out, kind of really giving us an idea of what it's like in the real world. So.
Should you want to add about Bright?
Yeah, definitely. Bright program, I would say they have a particular course where like all you do is basically bioprocessing. That's all you do in that particular course. And then every student, before you graduate, you have to take 2 semesters of strictly research. So you have to choose someone you will do the research with, analytical chemistry, bioprocessing, whatever you want to do. And then every student has to have an experience working with small scale bioreactors, 2 liters, 5 liters. But before I left, they got a bigger bioreactor. I don't know if it's online yet, but they said they were transitioning to having students have that experience with the bigger bioreactors too. So for the most part, there was a lot of hands-on. Maybe about 60% of what we did in the program, or 65%, was mostly hands-on. So.
For mine, I mean, I'm very similar to Lizzie. I took the biowork program and mine was 100% virtual. So double-sided sword with that one is, I had a little bit higher learning curve, once I actually got to get in there and touch and play with the equipment. The positive side to that is I didn't have any bad habits from any other places or, have experiences with different equipment. So I was learning on the job, specific to the equipment, exactly what we're going to be using for the processes. So plus and minus.
Thank you. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, just one more. Thinking maybe Rick, you might have some insights here. How would particularly a small business, steps that we would need to take to get plugged in to these types of programs from an internship or apprenticeship program?
Oh boy.
Perspective.
So the biotech website has all sorts of information about internships. I'm not sure if that program is still open, but there's a industrial internship program that companies can get $3,000 to hire an intern. You can always go to the tables and hit up the BTECs and the Brights and everybody out there. I don't want to focus on anybody. They're always looking for companies to come in for guest lectures, to hire interns, everything that these guys were talking about. So small or large, there's different students that would prefer small companies at a more of a startup phase, and then there's students that are looking for production. So because there are so many students in this area, you can probably always find 10 that fit that mold and pick the 1 or 2 that you want. So
Thank you.
definitely a good place to be. Got a question back there?
Thanks, Rick. My name is Anil Goyal. I'm CEO of a biotech company here. But my question is actually a little bit, you've brought a fantastic diversity on this panel. That doesn't exist in our industry, to be honest. And I run a nonprofit to try to improve that diversity in all sectors of our business, from research, business, manufacturing, clinical. So the question to the panelists here is, what would you suggest a nonprofit to do to encourage high school students to consider this industry, specifically from the Black, Latino, and Native community? That's where we are lacking diversity. So I'll pose that big question. The small question is, how do you do career development for yourself? Would be a second part question. So thanks.
So does it have to be a nonprofit?
No, it could be, nonprofit is a better situated.
Everybody has to focus on that. Right?
Yeah, everybody has
So
to focus.
I'll take a stab at your first part of the question. I came into a company, from different careers that, we'll say preach diversity, but how much do you really see it? It's part of what, the world requires. You have to say it. You have to try to preach it. I was very fortunate, like I said earlier, when I went into KBI, it's the most diverse work environment that I've ever been in. And, there's no tensions. I mean, like I said, everybody working for the same goal. And I think, as, a small company or whatever, I mean, just to have that culture from the get-go and to celebrate everybody and to value everybody's input, regardless of, it doesn't matter the color of your skin or your experiences, creating a diverse environment like that. I mean, that starts from day one. So, as far as, like I said, the first part, encouraging that, I mean, that's 100% up to you and how you, shape your business, how you run your business, what you're looking for when you're hiring, are you hiring to be diverse? Are you hiring based on experiences and, what their qualifications are? Because if you take, we'll say somebody's color off the plate, you will be diverse, because you're looking for what you need as a company. And again, valuing everyone's input and what they can bring to the table, I think it can kind of create itself.
Yeah. So I think the issue that so if you look at the actual numbers, we're not diverse. Industry is not diverse. To be honest, I have to say that, because I see it in my companies, not just today, but over the decades in the industry. There are less Blacks in the industry in any important positions. There are less Latinos in this position. There is skin color, but that's not the only two colors there are Asians represented pretty well, so you can call diversities there, but it doesn't represent the Black Latino community. So we have started that organization to really do the aspect of bringing more Black kids into to choose the industry, not come, by chance, but to want to come here. And same thing with the Latino, kids. Because there are no role models in our industry that are speaking to that color, and that's what I'm more focused on. So we can create diversity by hiring diversity from different colors, but we're not still affecting the population that we need to affect. So I'm sorry, I'm focused on that, but that's really the goal. So it's great to see it here. How do we translate it to a bigger population?
I'm going to fill the last 2 minutes that we have, because that's my job, is to do stuff that you're talking about. So, so one of the issues is there's still a lot of old white guys left. So as soon as we retire, then I think you'll see the numbers. But I work here at the Biotech Center. I'm the Workforce Development Director. We have a lot of initiatives, a lot of projects. We're trying to get some money from EDA and things like that. I want to talk to you afterwards. But we're putting together awareness programs to go into the Durham high schools to talk about our industry. One of the issues is a lot of high school kids of color, or any diversity, don't know about. Yeah, I'll go back. I had to get this out. But yeah, so we do have a lot of things, and we're concentrated on the future to build that. So we are reaching out and pulling in, and let's see.
So I'm actually part of nonprofits. So I have been part of nonprofits my whole high school, and they always focus on minorities and, Hispanic, Latinos, kids who have, toxic households. They're struggling, they don't have the same opportunity as somebody else. So there's a lot of nonprofit organizations in Durham itself that you could go to. And for example, the one I'm in, I go talk to the high school kids or the ones who are about to graduate, and I tell them about the program, and I tell them, hey, if you feel like you don't know what you're gonna do, this would be a great start for you to do something meaningful, et cetera, et cetera. And then they get them connected with Durham Tech, so they can get the opportunity to get the certificate, and they try to find them internships and jobs. So like, if you want diversity, then I feel like you could always go and partner with these nonprofit organizations, which focus on, minorities and people like me, Latinos, Black, undocumented, everything you could think about. There's a program out there.
Yeah, there's a collaborative in Durham called Bulls, Building Up Local Life Sciences. That is a collaborative of nonprofits that reach out to those. So we are working on the future, building the candidate pool. We need 5,000 new workers, but we got 1 more minute left. And then if you have additional questions, you can hit these guys up in the lobby.
Sorry, I would add to what Lizzie said. One of the things that I was trying to implement before I left Bright program was trying to get more mentorship program going on in high schools. Because I remember one time we had an opportunity to go to, I don't know, Carolina Science Math school. Yeah, we went there and I met a lot of young kids and we were telling them about the program. They had no idea what we were talking about.
No.
And so after that experience, I went back and I was, talking to some of my fellow ISPE members, and I was trying to implement that program, trying to get us to start a program where we mentor high school students about the industry. But now that I'm in the industry, one other thing that I was going to add is if we're going to use the nonprofits and get some of these organizations talking to high school kids about this, it will be important to actually add minority people, even though we are very few in the industry, that are currently working in the industry to help drive that process. Because you can't just walk into a place and tell kids about the industry without really knowing what happens in the industry. So it would be important to actually have that collaboration with the few minorities we have in the industry and use that to build a bridge for these young kids coming up.
Agree. That's part of a lot of our programs is to have industry folks go into the schools
And I can recommend some nonprofits.
Yeah.
Like I know a few. I have to actually talk to students sometimes there, because for me, growing up, it was always been very important to like not. I felt stuck at one point, and I wouldn't want another student like myself, especially in high school. 16 by on your own, having to work, having to go to school, graduating, and so I always try to go talk to students so they can have an opportunity they probably didn't know they could have.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody on the panel. And hopefully